The pale twin moons of Ceres 9 hung low in the dusty sky, their sickly light painting the ochre sands in muted teal and ash. Lieutenant Maravus crouched behind the crumbling remains of a fusion reactor, her breath steady despite the stale metallic taste that clung to her tongue. The wind kicked up fine grit that lodged in the joints of her exosuit, but she welcomed the abrasion. Any sensation was better than numbness thawed through the micro-drone's feed in her visor. The ore processing plant sprawled before her like the carcass of some mechanical leviathan. Corroded pipes, shattered conduits, and rust-stained catwalks suspended over yawning pits. The conglomerate's security teams had long abandoned this backwater facility. Yet rumors said a high-value transfer would arrive tonight, a shipment of experimental rail rifles bound for their frontline forces. Mara flicked her gaze to the downstream nodes. Her squad was in position. Kale among the shadows on the eastern flank, Jox and Rianne watching the southern gallery, and Dr. Lyran, a reluctant soldier, but invaluable with tech tucked into a maintenance shaft beside her. Each wore the faded crest of the freeborn Exodus, a shattered chain wrought in silver. A soft beep alerted her to movement. Targets inbound. 2 squads, bearing arms, whispered the drone's synthetic voice. Its tiny camera panned, picking out heat signatures drifting through the airlock's wrecked frame. Copy that, Mara murmured, heart pounding just enough to feel alive. She tapped her cum. Hold until I give the signal. We cut the power, disabled the turrets, then grabbed the rifles. In and out, clean. Static hissed with Jox's response. Understood. Awaiting? A sudden flare of plasma light lanced across the courtyard. Alarms, old, battered alarms that hadn't sounded in decades, screeched to life. The ground trembled as an automated turret, long neglected, detected bodies. Its targeting laser found her squad first. Kale shrieked. Incoming. Volley of cyan bolts slammed into the reactor husk. Sparks flew. Mara felt the assault before her armor registered it. The first shot seared into her left pectoral, a burst of white-hot pain that blossomed into burning agony. The second bolt scoured the right, tearing at her synthetic muscle fibers. Her chest plate groaned and cracked. Red plumes traced down her torso. She sagged against the metal girder. "Medic," she rasped. But there was no time. Her vision tunneled, edges going gray. The world slowed, the hiss of her own blood roaring in her ears thawed in the haze. She saw Jox spring forward, twin pistols spitting tracer rounds. Rianne rolled. Beside the turret, lobbed an EMP charge. The device detonated in a flash of violet energy. The turret's barrel spiraled. Then still dumb Mara locked onto Jaskin, the squad leader of the conglomerate detachment, who emerged from cover, rifle leveled. He grinned beneath his tactical visor, stepping forward to finish her. Guilt and rage writhed within him. Mercy was never option when hunting an abomination like her. His rail rifle hummed, barrels glowing a fierce orange. He squeezed the trigger. Something ancient and feral stirred within Mara. Though her body threatened to collapse, her augmented muscles surged. She lunged forward, each step a defiance of injury. The world narrowed to Jaskin's rifle and the space between them. He opened fire. The rail rounds scraped the wall beside her, each shot rebounding like thunder. Yet she reached him in 2 bounds. The gap collapsed. Mara's shoulders slammed into his midsection with the force of a sledgehammer. Metal screeched as his rifle slammed into the reactor framing, sparks showering them both. Now, she bellowed to Jox and Rianne. Time fractured. She felt bone shaking. Impact through her shoulder as she gripped Jaskin's forearm. The rail rifle bucked in his grip, the barrel quivering under her unrelenting force. A scream tore from his throat as the weapon's field stabilizer exploded in a shower of molten fragments. With a final twist of her wrist, The barrel cracked like dry wood, and the rest of the rifle followed. Jaskin's bones ground beneath her fingers, but he never released his hold. Mara pressed on until the stock gave way, tumbling into his lap. Collapsed, rifle shards scattered around him, eyes wide with disbelief and agony. Mara staggered back, one hand pressed to her shredded armor. Hot blood seeped through her gloves, but her stance was unbowed. Dr. Liren was already kneeling beside her, nanobot injectors at the ready. The world rushed back into focus as microscopic. Machines swarmed into the wounds, searing pain blooming into dull pressure. Prosthetic muscles flexed, reweaving torn fibers in seconds. The symbiotic implants beneath her skin glowed, weaving new armor as they closed the breaches. "Lieutenant," Liren said softly, voice trembling. You're going to live." Mara exhaled, a ragged sound. She looked down at her. Chestplate, 2 gashes hissing with nano-replication energy. As metal and flesh knitted together, she flexed her fingers, feeling the subtle hum of reinforced ribs beneath her palm. Behind her, Jax and Rianne rounded up the stunned conglomerate. Troops, disarming them with ease. Kale, weapon lowered, gave Mara a salute tinged with reverence. She straightened, pain receding into a distant throb. The ruined plant lay silent once more, save for the hiss of repaired steel and the ragged breaths of her squad. Marava's prototype of the Synaptic Divergence Initiative stood in the heart of enemy territory, bloodied but unbroken. "Signal command," she ordered, voice calm steel. "We're going to need extraction, and a hell of a good story." Behind the cracked sensor glass of her visor, her eyes burned with purpose. The night sky held no terrors for her now, not after 2 plasma bolts and a shattered rifle. Tonight, the ambush had forged her legend. Dawn's first pale rays filtered through the fractured ceiling of the subterranean cavern, casting long shadows across its crystalline walls. The heat from yesterday's firefight had given way to a chill that crept under Mara's exosuit and settled in her marrow. She rose from the makeshift biome where Dr. Liren had guided her through nano-repair and flexed her shoulders. The symbiotic fibers beneath her skin tingled as they calibrated, patching the last of the plasma scorch marks. In the center of the cavern, Jaskin lay bound to an overturned ore cart, his chest heaving. His tactical visor lay shattered at his side, smudged with dust and blood. He glowered at Mara as she approached, every breath a ragged hiss. "Prototype," he spat, voice thick with contempt. "You're no soldier. You're a weapon they built to slaughter humans." Mara knelt beside him, her eyes calm and unwavering. "I'm human," she said softly. "I chose this everything I am." He laughed, a broken, bitter sound that echoed off the walls. "They'll reclaim you. They'll reset your programming. And then you'll obey every order." Above them, Dr. Liren adjusted the intensity of a biolamp. "They tried," she said, voice tight with anger. "But the neural lattice in her cerebral cortex, it's one of a kind. Her will is her own." Mara rose and turned to her squad. Kale stood with arms crossed, the heavy Gauss cannon at his side. Jax and Rianne flanked him, their weapons holstered but ready. The miners they'd rescued, gaunt, hollow-eyed survivors huddled in the corners, clutching scrap claws to their wounds. "I need answers," Mara said, voice steady. "Where is the conglomerate's synaptic divergence facility? Who built me, and why?" Jaskin glared, fists clenching against his restraints. "Why? To crush any hope anywhere. Your prototype program was the ultimate deterrent. If the rebellion ever rose, they'd send you an unstoppable, unfeeling. You were the final line of defense." A low murmur rippled through the miners. Faces turned toward Mara, some with fear, others with awe. Dr. Liren crossed her arms. "They called it Project Acheron. It started as a parasite program neural. Pathogens to control unwanted populations. Then they tried grafting exoskeletal frames onto convicts and soldiers, but all the subjects died or went catatonic. Mara's gaze hardened. Except me. Jaskin's chest heaved as he spat into the dust. You were a volunteer. They said it would save your sister lost to a famine on Varos Prime, that you'd be rewarded with a treatment. But you didn't get it, did you? Mara's jaw tightened. Memory flickered. A cold lab, the antiseptic smell, the soft whir of medical drones. A tiny girl's face on a holoscreen, begging for help Mara couldn't deliver. No, she whispered. They lied. A tense silence stretched between them, broken only by distant drips of underground water. Then Jaskin's eyes widened pain, perhaps regret flickering behind his rage. You broke your rifle, he murmured. With your bare hands, she nodded. And I'll break every chain they forge, if I have to. Dr. Liren stepped forward and produced a slender vial of glowing blue fluid. This is the kinetic enhancer they injected you with during trials. It binds to your myofibrils, amplifying your strength. But it's unstable if we don't harvest. More, your body will burn itself out. Mara took the vial, studying its glow. Then we find the source. Jaskin glared at the vial, then at Mara. You'll die chasing shadows. The synaptic divergence facility is buried beneath the conglomerate's headquarters on Sirius Station. It's locked behind layers of defense shields, sentry mechs, and the best mercenaries money can buy. Rianne stepped forward. Then, we'll need an army, Kale's voice rumbled. And we'll need a plan. We can't just storm the station. Mara pocketed the vial. We'll use what they never expected. Their own prototype network, the ones connected to my neural signature. Every unit we liberated, every soldier you've ever reprogrammed or broken, they're tied to me. She turned back to Jaskin, voice soft but fierce. You'll tell us the override codes, access protocols, everything. And in return, you'll live long enough to see the conglomerate crumble. He glared, silent. Then, slowly, painfully, he nodded. Dr. Liren exhaled a shaky breath. It's a start. Mara placed a hand on Jaskin's shoulder, not gently, but firmly. Get comfortable, she said. You'll be talking for a long time. As the bioluminescent fungi pulsed around them, Mara gazed at the cavern's mouth where the world above waited. Her chest still echoed with the aftershocks of yesterday's battle, but each echo was a heartbeat, a promise that she would press on, uncover the truth, and exact justice for every life the conglomerate had stolen. Tonight, the revolution gained its first true spark. A violent ion storm crackled around the hull of Prometheus's wake, its wrathful winds stirring ionized gas into furious spirals. From Mara's vantage on a drifting maintenance pod, the refinery gleamed like a jagged citadel. In the tempest's heart, too many security nets, too many watchtowers yet tonight. Its defenses would be shadows. Mara steadied her squad at the airlock's service hatch. Kale's Gauss cannon lay slung across his back. Jux checked his twin pulse pistols. Rianne calibrated her grav-charge grenades. Dr. Liren hovered over a portable holopad, feeding corrupt credentials into the conglomerate's network. Each keystroke flickered on the cracked screen. Override in 3, Liren breathed. Then, we slipped through the O lines. Mara nodded. Good. Once inside, we split. Jax and Rianne head to the armory. Kale and I to the central reactor. You, Liren, stay with the minor convoy and secure the evac routes. Understood. Liren's voice trembled, but her fingers were steady. The hatch groaned open, revealing a dank corridor lit by emergency strobes. Mara led the way, grav saws dampening each step. Storm-fueled power surges danced across the ceiling conduits. Stray Orcs threatened to incinerate them at any moment. They reached the Nexus manifold, a spiderweb of pipes and bulkheads. Rian placed a sticky charge on the main conduit. Once it blew, the station's primary sensors would black out for exactly 90 seconds. "Charge is set," she whispered. Mara's HUD pulsed a countdown. 3, 2, 1 now. The conduit exploded in a silent shockwave, plunging half the refinery into darkness. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in sickly red. Alarms chimed, but without sensor input. The automated turrets remained blind. JAX, and Rian slipped away toward the armory, phasing around patrols with plasma-shrouded cloaks. Mara and Kale sprinted through maintenance shafts, each corner hiding the flicker of guard patrols. The storm's roar masked their boots as they ascended to the central reactor chamber, a cavernous hall where molten cores glowed like furious suns. 2 security mechs loomed at the reactor's gates, their hydraulic joints hissing. Kale unleashed a charged shot. The Gauss slug tore through the first mech's armor, gears flying in sparks. The second raised its pulse cannon. Mara vaulted forward, her kinetic-enhanced muscles surging. She seized its barrel mid-fire, wrenching it from its servo mount. The mech's arm collapsed as she hurled the cannon into Kale's grasp. "Good work," he grunted, slamming the pulse cannon into the mech's chassis. The machine collapsed in a tangle of hydraulics. Mara approached the reactor's control console. Holly interfaces blinked with untamed energy readings. She swiped her own neural signature, clandestine backdoor implanted during her creation, and the console unlocked with a hiss of degaussing coils. Data flooded her HUD, troop deployments, armament manifests, and most critical coordinates of the Synaptic Divergence Lab buried deep within the orbital station's core. "Got it," Mara reported. "Lab is on deck Sigma-7, under reinforced shields." "They're manufacturing 3 more prototypes per week," Kale frowned. "More like execution chambers for rebels." Mara's jaw clenched. "Shut down the reactor's auxiliary power. It'll force a reboot of the shields and open the path." As Kale keyed in the sequence, alarms shrieked, a rapid fire of heavy boots. Jaskin's mercenary reinforcements had traced them. The corridor flooded with armed soldiers. Rifles leveled. Mara stood between the console and the oncoming tide. "Get those miners to the pods," she bellowed, overcome. "I'll buy you time." She jammed her boots against the console housing, throwing it aside like a scrap of metal. Plasma bolts sizzled, grazing the reactor shell. Each hit sent tremors through the chamber. Mara's augmented frame absorbed the shocks. She raised her fists, kinetic energy crackling into white arcs. The first soldier charged. She met him with a thunderous punch that bent his exoskeletal joints backward. Second and third came together. She spun, launching them into each other with unearthly speed. Bolts ricocheted. The reactor's glow painted her silhouette in ghostly light, each movement a blur. Shields dropping. Kale shouted, firing the pulse cannon into the onslaught, carving a path to the maintenance shaft. Mara punched the final soldier's rifle clean from his hands, then darted behind Kale. Together, they plunged into the shaft as the reactor's auxiliary systems powered. Down. A deep thrum reverberated. The shield grid above Sigma-7 flickered off. Moments later, Jax's voice crackled in her ear. "Miners are aboard. Pods launching." Mara allowed herself a breath as the shaft doors hissed shut. "Good work, everyone. Sigma-7 is next." Storm winds screamed beyond the hull, but inside Prometheus's wake, a more dangerous tempest brewed. The gathering rebellion, fueled by the knowledge of the Synaptic Divergence Lab's location. The heart of the conglomerates. Tyranny was exposed, and soon its downfall would follow. The docking bay lights of Sirius Station flickered on as Mara Voss and her squad emerged from the transport pod. Beneath the cold glow of the orbital refinery's shattered remains, the conglomerate's flagship loomed a monolithic prism of steel and glass, its hull etched with the emblem of the Triune Council. Sigma-7 lay deep within its core, hidden behind multiple shield layers and a labyrinth of security corridors. Mara's visor displayed the compromised shield grid dead for exactly 2 minutes, 34 seconds. "Window small," she murmured. "We move fast, hit hard." Kale hefted the modified pulse cannon. "Ready when you are." Rianne and Jax planted grav charges on the outer door locks, their grenades clinging like metallic toads. Dr. Laren hovered behind her holopad, fingers poised to override any digital lock. Mara took a steadying breath and nodded Dot with a synchronized pulse. The charges detonated, flinging open the corridor doors. 5 heavily armed sentry mechs lurched to life, their targeting lasers sweeping the hallway. Mara sprinted forward, kinetic energy arcing around her fists. She collided with the first mech, snapping its servo joint with a sickening crack. Sparks erupted as metal tore. Kale unleashed a charged shot that tore through the second mech's chest plate. Rianne lofted a grav blast that pinned the third mech to the bulkhead. Jax covered their advance with rapid-fire plasma bolts. Within seconds, the path to Sigma-7 was clear. They entered a vaulted chamber where dozens of prototype stasis pods lined the walls, each containing an unconscious augmented subject, flesh grafted with circuitry and exoskeletal reinforcements. The air hummed with the low pulse of life support. Generators. Dr. Laren began unlocking the control console. "These pods are rigged to purge if tampered with incorrectly. I need 2 minutes to bypass the failsafes." Mara surveyed the room. "Then buy me time." As Laren worked, the heavy doors at the far end groaned and slid open. Mercenary guards poured in, rifles raised. Their commanding officer, Colonel Sarn Call, stepped forward, lobotomized pride in every heel click. "Lieutenant Vuss," he drawled, "I commend your tenacity, but this ends here." Mara's eyes narrowed. "It ends only when you release these people." Sarn sneered and raised his rifle. Mara charged, fists glowing with kinetic charge. She deflected the first slug into the ceiling. The second guard fell under a hammer fist blow that shattered his armor and spine. Kale roared, swinging the pulse cannon like a club. Jax and Rianne wove through the firefight, their grenades sending shock waves across the deck that rattled the station's core. Behind them, the stasis pods hissed open. One by one, the prototypes stirred groggy at first, then recognition flaring in their eyes as they saw Mara. Each stepped out, limbs reinforced, and eyes alight with dormant purpose. Dr. Laren finally sealed the console override. "Done. They're free to follow your neural signature, but we must evacuate security. Reinforcements are closing in." Mara turned to the newly awakened soldiers. "Today, you fight for yourselves. For every life the conglomerate stole." She raised her voice so the entire chamber could hear. "Join us." A chorus of resolute affirmations rang out. The prototypes flanked Mara's team as they advanced on Saren's remaining forces. The corridor erupted in a cascade of energy and metal each blow, driven by years of subjugation and betrayal. At the heart of the Nexus core, Mara confronted Colonel Cal one last time. He lashed out with a vibroblade, sparks flying as steel met her impenetrable gauntlets. She countered with a crushing grip, bending the blade until it snapped. With a final surge of kinetic force, she sent him sprawling into the reactor coolant vent. He screamed as frigid mist enveloped him, and then silence. Behind her, alarms blared. The station's remaining automated defenses had rearmed. Mara sprinted to the central uplink terminal. "Laren, override the broadcast network. We're exposing them." Fingers flying, Laren hijacked the conglomerate's comm channels. Across every civilian and military frequency, Mara's face flickered on screens. "I am Mara Voss of Project Acheron. You've seen what they fear. A human who refuses to obey. Their tyranny ends now. Rise up. Across dozens of worlds, mining colonies, backwater settlements, freehold outposts, the message ignited rebellions. Reactor cores shut down. Dockyards opened fire on corporate fleets. Citizens poured into the streets. As Mara finished her broadcast, the crew gathered in the chamber, prototypes standing tall beside miners and exiles alike. The station shuddered as orbiting frigates scrambled to retaliate, but the crew of liberated souls poured into evacuation pods already armed with stolen rail rifles and GRAV charges. Mara lingered at the terminal, hand on the console. Beside her, Jack swung his pistol and offered a grin. That was one hell of a speech. Kale clapped her on the back. Now they know who their real commander is. Rianne draped an arm around Dr. Liren, and we've got allies waiting. Mara exhaled, the first real breath she'd had since her creation. Her chest plate glowed faintly where the scars of 2 plasma bolts had healed. This is only the beginning, she said. But today, we struck the first blow. Behind her, the liberation tears echoed through Sigma 7's halls. Above them, the Triune Council's flagship burned against the black canvas of space. Above them, the Triune Council's pseudoship, blazing testament to a revolution born from one woman's refusal to break.